Whenever you're out questing in Azeroth, running a dungeon, have you ever just stopped and wondered, how did any of this get here? Well, it turns out every single character, every zone, every fight, it's all built on a history that is just absolutely colossal. So today, we're going to dig into the massive, world-changing events that laid the foundation for the game you play.
And that right there is the big idea for this whole explainer. You are constantly walking through the echoes of these ancient events. And once you know what they are, believe me, you start to see their impact absolutely everywhere.
All right, so here's the plan. We're going to look at 5 of the most critical moments in Warcraft lore, and we're going to do it chronologically. We'll start with a cosmic betrayal that kicked everything off and go right up to the creation of one of the most famous villains in all of gaming.
So, where else can we possibly start but at the very, very beginning? We're talking hundreds of thousands of years ago, with these godlike beings called the Titans. Their little club, the Pantheon, had just one job: bring order to a really chaotic universe.
So you've got this fundamental conflict, right? On one side, you have the Titans. They're basically cosmic gardeners trying to nurture these sleeping baby planets, or world souls, into new Titans. But then you've got their total opposites, the Void Lords, who just want to infect those same world souls with these parasitic monsters called the Old Gods and twist them into something truly awful.
And this is what they were so terrified of. If the Void Lords ever succeeded, they'd create a Dark Titan, a being with so much evil and power that even the Pantheon wasn't sure they could stop it. Well, their greatest champion, Sargeras, he found a world that had already been corrupted, and the sight of it just broke him. He was so horrified, he decided the only way to stop the infection was to destroy the entire planet.
Of course, the Pantheon was horrified by what he did, but Sargeras, he was just consumed by this fear. He came to this grim conclusion that life itself was the problem. It was a flaw in the universe's design. And so, he decided the only way to save the cosmos was to burn it all down. He shattered a prison world full of demons, twisted his own body into something monstrous, and created the Burning Legion to wage his fiery war against all of creation.
Okay, so this brings us to Azeroth. After Sargeras' betrayal, the Titans found this incredibly powerful world soul there. But, surprise, surprise, it was already infested with old gods. Having learned a hard lesson, they decided to try and save this world, not destroy it. So they created these servants made of stone and metal, the Titan forged, to fight the old gods for them.
Now, after locking the old gods away, the Titans took off. But one of them, Yogg-Saron, wasn't quite done yet. It secretly unleashed something called the Curse of Flesh. And you gotta understand, this is a huge deal. This curse slowly started turning the immortal, stone and metal Titan forged into mortal beings of, well, flesh and blood. So the stone earthen, they became dwarves. The mechagnomes became gnomes, and the huge, mighty Vrykul, their descendants eventually became humans.
So just think about that for a second. An ancient curse, unleashed by an evil god as an act of pure corruption, is the literal reason that the core races of the Alliance even exist. No curse of flesh, no dwarves, no gnomes, and no humans. It's just wild to think that one of the game's 2 main factions basically owes its entire existence to a villain's evil plan.
All right, let's fast forward a few thousand years, to about 10,000 years before the start of the game. By now, the Night Elf civilization had built this massive empire, all centered around a font of pure magical energy called the Well of Eternity. They got unbelievably powerful, but also unbelievably reckless with all that power.
And yeah, all of that magic being thrown around did not go unnoticed. It sent out these ripples across the universe that basically acted like a giant dinner bell for Sargeras and the Burning Legion. He saw Azeroth, he saw that powerful world soul, and he wanted it. This is what kicked off the very first invasion of the Legion and the absolutely devastating War of the Ancients.
The war hit this insane peak when the Well of Eternity itself just became unstable and imploded. The explosion was so powerful, so violent, that it literally shattered the planet's one single supercontinent. A staggering 80% of the entire landmass just collapsed into the ocean. And here's the kicker. The world map you play on, Kalimdor, the Eastern Kingdoms, Northrend, that entire geography is a giant scar left behind by this one event. Seriously, every single time you hop on a boat or a zeppelin to go to another continent, you are literally traveling across the wound of an ancient, world-shattering war.
Okay, for our next big moment, we actually have to leave Azeroth for a bit and head over to another planet, Draenor.
This was the homeworld of the orcs, who, believe it or not, originally lived this pretty peaceful, shamanistic life. They were totally in tune with the elements. But, well, that harmony was about to be completely shattered.
So, the Burning Legion, working through this demon lord Kil'jaeden, saw an opportunity. They offered insane power to a shaman named Gul'dan. He then convinced the orcs to drink demon blood, corrupting them and forming the original horde. They used all this new fell magic to completely wreck their own world, and once they weren't useful anymore, the Legion just abandoned them. Desperate, Gul'dan reached out and made contact with a corrupted human mage back on Azeroth, and together they ripped open a gateway between their two worlds.
And I am not exaggerating when I say this is the single most important event for the game as we know it. The opening of the Dark Portal and the Orc invasion that followed. That is the central conflict the entire Warcraft franchise is built on. No portal, no Horde versus Alliance, no World of Warcraft. It all starts right here.
And that brings us to our final point, the creation of one of the most iconic villains in gaming history. Now look, when I say Lich King, your mind probably jumps straight to Arthas Menethil. But he wasn't the first. The original was an orc shaman named Ner'zhul, and his transformation is pure nightmare fuel.
So after the orcs failed to conquer Azeroth, Ner'zhul was captured by that same demon Kil'jaeden. As punishment, he was tortured beyond belief until his spirit was literally ripped from his body. That spirit was then fused to a suit of enchanted armor and the rune blade Frostmourne. The whole package was then shoved into a block of ice called the Frozen Throne. Trapped there, reshaped by demonic magic, Ner'zhul's mind expanded beyond anything mortal. And in that icy prison, the Lich King was born.
So there you have it. You've got a cosmic betrayal that created the biggest threat in the universe, a mortal curse that, ironically, gave birth to the heroes of the Alliance, a magical explosion that literally drew the world map, and a portal between worlds that sparked the entire franchise. These aren't just little bits of backstory. They're the pillars holding up the entire World of Warcraft.
Seriously, these events are the reason any of our characters' stories can even happen. So the next time you log in, just take a look around, because now you know the truth. You're walking in the shadows of giants, and every single corner of this world has a story to tell. What are you going to see differently now?